Hello and welcome to Office Hours number 29. My name is Jeff Rolka, and this is the hour that I spend with whomever cares to share it with me, answering questions and talking about singing and music and basically whatever pops up on the screen in addition to whatever I may have saved from throughout the week. And I have a couple points to start off with, but before I dive into that, I want to thank you again. And if you've chosen to subscribe, that's awesome. Thank you. If you haven't yet subscribed, I'd like to suggest perhaps that you consider doing so now. There's a link in the bottom of your screen or in the lower right-hand corner of the picture that you can click on and subscribe right now. It is November 5th, and in England, this is a day that they light off fireworks and celebrate. So you may hear some popping, and I may occasionally jump from time to time because of the noises. But do not be alarmed. It is the 5th of November. This is all proceeding according to plan. Hello, Susanna. Hello, JC's Radiant Ray. And hello, Sarah C. Welcome to the chat. Yeah, that's about it. I'm going to dive right in here. I want to say again, too, this is your live event. I'm here to answer your questions. So please do not be shy. There is no reason to be shy here. Drop it on the screen. I will get to it just as soon as I can. As I mentioned, I had a few questions. This is not working for some reason. There we go. From this week. And starting off with this one, this was a bit of a misunderstanding, and if this person's had the misunderstanding, I think it's quite likely that there's others too that may have had it. Jeff, thanks for the informative video. One key thing I picked up from it was you're discussing narrowing the range of the passagio using the triad exercise. That's the misunderstanding. How narrow do you feel the range should be? Would you say that when singing an ascending scale, there should be a particular pitch where you would switch to head voice, or would this occur over a number of pitches? Okay. So last question first, or moving backwards through the question there. The secondo passagio is the point where you really are cricothyroid dominant. That's the switch over point, if you will. And it will typically be, a pitch. As I've mentioned before, I'm kind of between F and F sharp above middle C. That's where once I'm beyond that point, I'm really cricothyroid dominant. That's your head voice, cricothyroid dominant singing. Now, the reality is that through the zona de passagio, you're going to feel subtle adjustments to your vowels and to your voice as you make your way through that. If you're operating with a well-balanced vocal fold, then the thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice, your head voice, is going to slowly start to give over control of the vocal fold, or it's going to allow that cricothyroid to elongate it, I should say, and you'll feel that balancing act, that point that you're switching over. So in one sense, it kind of does occur over several notes, but the actual point of transition is going to remain consistent. So wherever that note is, that's what you have to plan for in your scales and in your melodies. So for me, I know that if I have a melody that starts on a D natural above middle C and goes up to A, that F sharp is going to be a transition point for me. Malu, Greg, and Aldo, hello. Welcome. Just taking care of a few questions left over from the channel this week. Now, the other thing about this, and this was the part that was most concerning to me. I've mentioned this in a few videos, the idea of changing exercises, and the misunderstanding here is that somehow you're going to narrow the zona de passagio. Hello, Matt. And actually, what I'm meaning to say there, what I meant by that is that by changing the exercise, you are narrowing the space within which you have to adjust to the secondo passagio. So, for example, on an octave arpeggio, when you're descending, you, there's a perfect fourth between those two pitches. That's a reasonably wide interval, and that's easier for us to make the adjustment from cricothyroid dominant to thyroarytenoid dominant. When you get a bit more advanced, you get more comfortable with that transition, it becomes more consistent, then you use a triad. You, 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 you. Effectively, what that does is that you place the fifth of the triad above the secondo passagio, so that's committed to cricothyroid dominant singing. Then the third of the triad is going to be in the zona de passagio, and so we're narrowing the space that you have to make the transition. We're not narrowing the zona de passagio, we're just narrowing the space. And then once you've done that, really you're ready to start doing once you can do descending and ascending arpeggios. You can really start to work on a descending scale and really start smoothing out that transition. So that's what I meant by narrowing the distance. I'm talking about the space that we have to make the transition between thyroarytenoid dominant singing and cricothyroid dominant singing. I've got a few things on screen here, so I'm going to take a look at that and then come back to another question, which is about warm-up routines. Matt, just getting that's kind of a fun ID because it's like just getting along, but it's a login. So maybe I'm reading too much into that, but I like it. What's your advice for projecting in the alto range? Thanks. Projection is primarily about the singer's formant, and that is the, I don't know if you can hear that or not, the popping. So remember, the 5th of November. The singer's formant is a frequency band that is, depending on the voice, around the 2,000 hertz to 5,000 hertz, and it's a bit of it's a brightness, it's a mask resonance that we can employ in order to have greater projection. It's what opera singers use to project their voices. It's what makes us cut through a loud band when we're using a microphone, and it's great for being heard in coffee shops if you're just playing guitar and singing and you don't have a mic at all. So, by way of example, if I add it to if I remove it from my singing voice here, you'll really hear. It's not a bad sound, it's just that it doesn't have an edge to it. There's no projection to it. Now you could certainly go really far back and go D nasal with it, and that does sound affected. But here's a more normal vocal vocal phonation. And if I blend more of that singer's formant into my voice, you can hear a lot more of it. And if I had like a really, really thick texture, I might do even more than that. Musical theater people will use a lot of this in order to be heard and clearly understood, because there's a great necessity for them to be intelligible on stage. We need to understand what they are saying. The message has to get across. If you're singing popular music, pop rock or whatever, you get a bit more leeway with that, but that will help with your projection. Greg, do you have any advice for getting a consistent buzz in the voice? I've noticed that you and your performances have it, and most singers do. Yeah, Joey, it's going quite well. Thank you for saying hello. I think I forgot to mention that. You can feel free to just say hi, by the way, too. If you don't have a question, you can just say hello. I'm always happy to hear from everybody. Yeah, getting that ring in the voice. I know I talk about this a lot, but the NG sound is really, really good for balancing that. But the way to get it to stay is to maintain the resonance when you transition to a vowel. So a lot of times we'll do that exercise, and it's great for smoothing through the secondo passagio. But in order to make that translate into your singing voice, you have to release it to the vowel, and you can do any vowel you want. I mostly use it to help people focus ah vowels. Works great with ah, works great with a, and maintain that resonant quality. It's the key to that exercise is to try to sing it to be as engaged enough that the tissues and the soft tissues in the oral cavity can release, that they're really, really allowed to vibrate freely. And then when you release that, you're isolating the movement to the tongue. The rear of the tongue is just gently coming down from the rear roof of the mouth and allowing the ah vowel to form. And that way the resonances will stay consistent. So if by way of example, if you move too much of the tissue, then you can hear the difference in the timbre there. And then from there, you practice getting your tonal onset to have that. It's another layer of release in the voice, really. And FYI, just getting a login, that's the exercise that works really well for developing the singer's formant. And I can see down there, don't worry, I'm going to skip back up. You have the singer's for men, and it's formant, F-O-R-M, I think it's M-A-N-T, formant. And that's what you want to check out. I'm sure you can find tons and tons of information about it on the interwebs there. But singer's formant, F-O-R-M-A-N-T. Okay. Let me see here. Projecting, consistent buzz. Joey, if I can scream or squeeze out a high note, will I eventually be able to sing it? Well, I would not recommend it. So lots of different genres ask different things of us. If you're really screaming a lot, if you're really squeezing, those types of vocal fold engagement styles of phonation tend to be inconsistent and long-term and even short-term damaging to the vocal fold. If you start adding a lot of glottal attacks into there, then you're going to accelerate the process of fatiguing the vocal fold. Even if you can kind of squeeze it out, it'll never be as consistent as making a successful transition through the secondo passagio and working with the resonance of your voice to get the kind of affectation that you want for the pitch in question. Alternately, if you really feel it is absolutely critical that you enter the call of your voice, which is another way of talking about belting. So, and so that we're all on the same understanding here, so we are on the same page, as I would like to say, belting as defined in the school of voice that I work within is forcing the thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice to go higher and higher without allowing it to transition into cricothyroid dominant singing. So if you really, really have to do that, if you have to have that affectation, then I would highly recommend you limit your range to a major second above the secondo passagio. Just stick to that and you will probably be okay. But the long-term effects of belting, anyone who's consistently belting generally will require more time off than one who is only using it occasionally. And the possibilities of some significant long-term damage are they're significant. So I would caution you about using that as your main technique all the time. Okay, Aditya, I'm going to come back to that. I want to take this other question that I had left over from the week real quickly here before I get too far along. And says, Jeff, I'd love to know what your daily routine is. Maybe I could get some tips from how the pros do it daily. Well, there's a really funny story about, I'm a Peter Gabriel fan. I really enjoy his music and have for many, many years. And he's worked with a variety of different vocalists on his tour, Shankar, and Yusu Endur, and I don't recall if it was Yusu Endur or Shankar that they posed this question to, but they said, like, we really want to warm up with you. Can we please warm up with you today? And it's like Gabriel and all of his backing vocalists. And he's like, yeah, sure, that's fine. Because either of those two, Yusu Endor or Shankar, have these amazing high life quality voices, and the agility is amazing. It's lovely and beautiful. And so they all get in the room with the guy, and he sits cross-legged on the floor, and they sit there for 5 minutes, and Gabriel and all the rest of the singers are kind of looking around. And then he all of a sudden takes a really, really, the more I think about this, I think there was Shankar, takes a really big breath and screams at the top of his lungs, lights up a cigarette, stands up and leaves the room. And all of them are like, ah, like, what happened here? Now, I'm not advocating taking up smoking for this, but I use that as an illustration to say that everyone's warm-ups are different, and it depends on the vocalist. It also depends on what you are singing. For me, my daily warm-up would be different from what you might encounter on the channel, in that it immediately starts transiting the secondo passagio. I do not spend any significant amount of time warming up my thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice before I start going up and down in full range. But that's just a general warm-up for a general day of singing. If I have a long, long gig, I've been in cover bands in the past and done things like that, then I will spend a fairly significant amount of time warming up my thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice before I start my upper register, because I want to really slowly start getting things going. And I know that I have a long show, because the cover band gigs I did were sort of bar band, 80s cover stuff. So we would be there for 3 hours or more playing tunes. If I'm in the recording studio, it's usually just a standard warm-up, because I know that I'm going to be singing a lot on mic, getting things dialed in and getting the takes to where I want them. So I'll do a fairly short, abbreviated warm-up before I start that. If I am sick, then I may not warm up my upper register at all. I may only do my lower register, and I'll do that primarily to move mucus around, to just keep my vocal folds limber, so that I'm not getting too out of shape in that period. Now, at some point, if I lose my upper register entirely, then I will take time off, but I try to avoid that as much as possible. And then we get into the specifics of songs. So if I have a song that requires something really specific of me, then I will warm up that range of my voice. If I'm working on, I kind of work on different tunes from time to time just to work on different skill sets. So from time to time, I'll come back to Bohemian Rhapsody and practice different aspects of the tune just to work on my technique. And I will specifically warm up whatever I need for whatever section of the tune I'm working on. So it does change quite a lot from not so much from day to day, but depending on the circumstances, I will change my warm-up routine to support whatever it is I have to sing. How do I take care? So here we go. Back to the screen here. Aditya, hello. How do I take care of my voice? Recently, it feels like my vocal cords have mucus on them, and it sounds a little scratchy. Okay, if it's just mucus, don't worry about it. That can be a response to if you've just started practicing daily, that can be a response to your daily practice regimen. It can also be that you're not drinking enough water. So have a look at how much water you're drinking on a daily basis and consider increasing that if the mucus is really bothering you. Mucus in and of itself is not a problem. But you may need to warm up a little while to get it off of there. That's another case in point. If I'm feeling very mucusy, if I've sung for a lot on a Tuesday and it's Wednesday, I know that I'm going to have to warm up a little bit longer to move all the mucus off my voice, because when you start singing for, and a teaching day, in addition to my normal practice, I can easily sing 5 or 6 hours. And I know that the next day I'm going to have a bit more mucus than I would normally have in my vocal fold. Generally, it's not a problem. If you are fatiguing your voice, that's a different issue. Address your engagement and airflow in order to try to take some of the muscle engagement off the vocal folds. So that will benefit you in a number of different ways in addition to doing a little bit less wear and tear on your voice. L. Hoffman 88 says, thank you. I was the guy with the question about the secondo passaggio and the very clear explanation. Excellent. I'm glad that helped. Thank you. And I already talked about the singers. Whoa, singers formant. Scrolling. Okay, I gotta get going here. Theron is saying hello to everyone, and I say hello back. Body Electric. Any advice? Hello to you, by the way. Any advice for singing and playing guitar at the same time? I notice my breaths are shorter when I play an instrument while singing. You know, it's really, really cool that you bring that up today. I mentioned I'm a big fan of Peter Gabriel, and I've been working on a couple of those tunes today and just an acoustic guitar versions of them. And I noticed different things, but the main thing is to practice them separate. So practice the guitar part and really get an understanding of what your part is going to be. So even if you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm just kind of doing a general strum pattern, that's fine. But even in generalities, we want to be very specific. Is it all just down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up on every beat? Is it down, down, up, down, down, up? Like, what specifically is the strum pattern? Practice that and practice the chord changes without singing. So maybe play along with the track. If you are doing a cover song, pardon me. If you're not doing a cover, use a metronome. Use a metronome to keep you honest on your pacing and on your timing. Then, or at the same time, put the guitar down, practice the vocal part. Practice the parts that are giving you, that are presenting challenges to you. And then start to integrate the two. If you have used a metronome, slow the tempo down so that it's less than what you would do in performance. So, for example, if the performance tempo is 80 beats per minute, slow it down to 60. You may find that you need more breaths or breaths in different locations in the phrases. That's all right. We're working on coordination at that point. You may also consider lowering the key. So if you are going to plan on singing that in D, drop it to a comfortable key. If it's going over the secondo passaggio, drop it so that you don't have to go over the secondo passaggio in your initial coordination practice. Keeping in mind, this is about coordination. Then you can move the tempo up and practice all of that together in that lowered key, and then start to move the key back up to the performance key and performance tempo. It sounds like a long process. It will go much, you will get a much higher quality performance by investing your time that way rather than just trying to hammer it at performance tempo at the key you're intending to perform it in. Do the process. It will go much faster. And every time you do that, each successive tune you prepare that way will go faster and faster and faster. You'll get better and better at it. Aldo. FYI, Aldo, I love the fact that you call me maestro. I really, that just really touches me. A question about the new videos. Do we work them as daily warm-ups or like extra exercises? Thank you, by the way. I forgot what I was doing, and it just occurred to me that I should do some of these videos like this. I think they are very important, and I think that's well spotted. Thank you for bringing it up. I would probably use them once in a while as like a sort of spot check. If the skill sets in them are presenting problems, then by all means, work them until they're getting smoother so that you can do what the individual exercises are asking of you. I feel like I need to do more videos like those because I've only done, I don't know, like probably 3 or 4 different series of these. There's not there's not that many of them that I've done thus far. And for those of us that are singing lyrics, we have to phrase through the consonants. So yeah, I would do them, once a week or something like that. Or, if you've got a song that has a bunch of T's or Y's or something such as that in it, then you can go back to that section and work that section and go back to your tune that way. Thank you for bringing it up. Just getting a login. Thank you, Jeff, for volunteering your time. You're a great teacher. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Thanks for joining us tonight. Shake. Hello, Jeff. Any advice for improving my vocal tone? Well, can you elaborate a little bit, please? What's going on for you? There's any number of different things that I might suggest for tone. So maybe give me a starting point. Are you a new vocalist, or are you new to vocal training? Have you been singing for a long time but you've struggled with fatigue? Does your high register not match your chest voice? Your head voice doesn't match your chest voice? What's going on? Aldo. How can we achieve the one voice register? I think Freddie Mercury achieved it. Michael Jackson covered his voice a lot. Is it because Freddie was inspired by opera? Perhaps. Perhaps. The short answer to that is to resist the urge to be too heavy in the thyroarytenoid dominant range of your voice. That will make for a far, far smoother and a far more timbre matching transition into your upper register. Airflow is incredibly key to this, because if you do not have sufficient airflow, the soft tissues in the oral cavity are not going to be released enough to vibrate and resonate sympathetically with the pitches that your vocal fold is creating. So, and again, that falls right back into airflow. You've got to have that really, really dynamic in that it's responding to the pitch that you're singing, but supportive air column underneath it. And I know, Aldo, I know that you're practicing passagio, and that is, from my experience in teaching and in my own singing and performance, that is the most surefire way to achieve a single sounding one voice register. Sarah C., is there some sort of trick or rule to know if I'm practicing properly, doing the warm-ups in a right way for my voice? Well, I suppose there's a number of different bars to hit here. If the lowest bar is that it's not hurting you, right? I mean, if it's not hurting, then you're at least in the ballpark. You're on the right track. You can always record yourself to evaluate it, but that doesn't tell you what to listen to. However, that's how I would have you do this anyway. There's so many things to listen to in order to make sure that you're doing the exercises properly. On exercises that have short notes, he, if those are too long, that's not the right amount of engagement. That's part of what I listen for when I work on that exercise with someone with whom I'm working. The shortness of the staccato notes is a really good indicator of how they're using engagement. So we listen for that. Other things to listen for, glottal attacks. That pop there. It is an imbalance in vocal fold engagement and the way that your epiglottis is sitting on the vocal fold, and an imbalance between that and your airflow. So you need to assess airflow. As you advance, listen not only for the sounds of the vowels, but also the transition points. So, for example, those resonate similarly, and the point that I change from E to A is rather insignificant. If you hear a great Y sound in that, you've got too much tongue tension. Generally, that will also be accompanied by a change in resonance. Those changes, those unintended changes in color or timbre in the voice, are clues that there are imbalances. The resonances are not lining up. The warm-up videos on my channel go in a sequential. They're all built in a sequential pattern, so that they start with vowel sounds that generally are easier to align and make resonate properly, and then move into ones that are more open. So you'll have like an E, A, E to A, then A to Ah. A, Ah, A, Ah. I usually group A and Ah and A and O to give you the benefit of that A vowel to help you build the resonance into the more open vowel. Yes, exactly. Just getting a login formant. That is correct. Joey, how can I find my passagio? I think my first is at D4 or D sharp 4. Can you tell what vocal fach I have just from this? No. That's well, if that is your primo passagio, then your secondo passagio should be somewhere around G, F sharp or G above middle C. If that's the case, then you would typically fall into the category of tenor, but it's really, really hard to. I don't like generalizing about fach because there's so many things that go into it, and furthermore, there are like half a dozen different styles of tenor. So, just saying that you're a tenor is only half the picture. When we talk about fach, we take into account all the different aspects of the voice, what the lower register and what the robustness of the voice, what does the upper register sound like, what's the quality of it when it's well aligned. All of those things go into finding out what your fach is. Donata, just getting a login. Malu, whoa, that moved. Malu, where are you? Which of your videos do you recommend me for warming up my voice before singing? Mezzo soprano. Depends on what you're singing. I spoke about this a little bit earlier on. It really depends on what it is that you're going to sing. There's lots and lots of general warm-ups that go through, all the 5 main vowels that we use for singing practice and intervals and things like that. One of my personal favorites is the diaphragmatic warm-up. It's a generalized male and female warm-up. It incorporates a lot of airflow and engagement practice into it. If you want a general warm-up to start with, it was released in, I think, November of 2013. The audio for you is really good because I redid that one for mezzos by request. It's called Warm Up Free Voice Lesson, I think is what it is. And it was that was the original series of first 4, now 5 videos that got this whole thing kicked off for me. And it remains a favorite among the people who use the channel. And I redid it recently. So as a mezzo, you would get much better audio quality and video quality too on that. So yeah, Warm Up, Free Voice Lesson is the title, and it's for mezzos. Yeah, start with that, and then you can explore the rest of the channel. Draper's got a smiley face. Destiny, I should say, and thank you very much. Destiny uses the alto warm-up every day, and you are very welcome, and thank you for watching. Thank you for having a little go here at the old chat. Joey, my voice doesn't feel connected to my body. Is there any way to connect it? Really depends on what's happening. And it depends on what your physical experience of it is like. It's hard for me to say without knowing exactly what's going on with you. But if you're in a very, the thing that I'm suspicious about in the way that question is phrased is, well, I don't know. Tell me more, Joey. Tell me what's going on. What's your voice sound like? Is it really airy, or is it really thick? And can you not make a transition into your secondo passagio? Tell me a little bit more about your vocal qualities, and perhaps I can be of more specific assistance. Because my initial thought was that it's only a partially adducting vocal fold, so which is very common these days. Yeah, it would sound like a where the vocal fold isn't entirely meeting, and when that's happening, you're gonna lose a lot of air, and it's not really gonna feel very. It doesn't feel connected. It's just the ligament, primarily on the outer surface of the vocal fold, that's vibrating. Carlos Estrada, hello, and hello to you. When I sing, I feel most of the vibrations in my throat. Does this mean that I am primarily singing in my throat? And if so, how do I fix it? Well, your larynx is here. That's what vibrates when we sing. It's entirely feasible to feel a little bit of warmth in your chest and things like that, but I primarily feel things here myself. I don't think that there's anything wrong. I don't think you have anything to fix. That does depend apart. I mean, if you're gripping or something like that, that's a different issue. But if it's just that you're feeling most of the sensation here at the top of the oral cavity, you're probably okay. There really isn't. I mean, this whole notion of resonance on the body, there's nothing down here that resonates. The lungs are down here. The air doesn't go that way when we sing. Now, there is a feeling of engagement and a feeling of activity with suspension, with passagio, when we're laterally expanded and engaged. It feels, the space feels activated, and it feels sympathetic to what the voice is doing. And I suppose one might interpret that as resonance, but to me it feels more of it feels, without getting too, I don't want to get too oovy groovy on everybody here, but it's like holding a ball of energy, and the energy sometimes kind of opens up and expands as we engage more and we need more energy, and sometimes it comes closer. It's not that it collapses. There's still a lot of surface tension and it's still pushing outwards, but it's engaged and it's a more intimate, enclosing kind of a space. But that's a little bit out there. Capone! Hello and welcome, Capone. Hello, just watching and packing my suitcase tomorrow to Estonia. Tallinna with my mom. Maybe karaoke. Excellent! Do let us know how it goes. Enjoy Estonia. Is that... I think that's... Well, it's got to be further south than where you are right now, so you get a little bit of sunshine, hopefully. Nick is saying hello, and I say hello back. Joey, where are your passaggi? And he's saying, thank you for the great explanation. You're very, very welcome. My passagio, my primo passagio, middle C, C sharp, secondo passagio, between F and F sharp. Most of us, if your vowels are forming properly and you've got good engagement, it's entirely likely that you'll sing right past your primo passagio. I actually had a comment. I went back and forth with a person in the comment section 2 weeks ago, and actually I was thinking about something incorrectly, and we sorted it out because I was really thinking about my primo passagio a bit higher, like D sharp. And that's where I really start to feel the vowel modifications and the transition between thyroarytenoid dominant singing and cricothyroid dominant singing. And I remembered from my textbooks that the primo passagio was lower, but I hadn't recalled certain passages. And in going through it with them, I realized, like, oh yeah, I'm probably guilty of singing right past that primo passagio without really noticing it that much. So C sharp is the primo, F sharp is the secondo. Again, most of my vowel modification starts to occur around, on a bad day, D, on a good day, D sharp, E natural-ish, before I'm making my transition through the secondo passagio. Aldo, singing warm-up, tenor, yes, thank you. And then I start to kill. That's awesome. So this is, so Aldo is very kindly put in like their workflow. for warming up their voice. That is so cool. That is so cool. I'm actually going to start a group. I don't know where I'm going to do it. I think I might do it on Facebook, or I might do it someplace else. I really avoid Facebook. If any of you leave comments or things like that for me on Facebook, I rarely go over there. But I think I want to start a group for the people that are using the book, so we can post our sequences, because the book is about developing sequences of videos and your own personal playlists and ways of working with your voice and doing different things. But that's really, really cool. Thank you for throwing that up there. Brenda, how do you know what voice you are? We learn about our vocal, so your vocal type is called your fach. One might call it your vocal range. That's not entirely accurate, because our vocal range is the overall span that we would be able to sing. So, my vocal range, in entirety, it goes from, whatever. It's from a B natural below low C to a E above high C, or something like that. But your vocal fach is determined by locating the primo and secondo passagios and the characteristics of your voice. So those elements go into figuring out what your fach is. A big part of this is learning where the secondo passaggio is. That's what was commonly referred to as your break. This can be tricky to figure out if you're new to vocal instruction, because oftentimes vocalists will have learned the habit of trying to push high notes out. And if you have done that in the past, that can obscure where the actual secondo passaggio is. And what you'll get is someone saying that their secondo passaggio is, A above. They're a male vocalist, and their secondo passaggio is A above middle C. That is incredibly unlikely. Unlikely to the point of impossible. What is most likely happens is that they've been pushing and pushing and pushing, and then at that A5 they crash into their falsetto voice, rather than switching over to cricothyroid dominant singing at a more natural point. So yeah, you got to locate your secondo passaggio. That's a really, really good way to get started with that. Aldo, I love Freddie operatic ad libs. Yeah, he really had it great. Blue, third up, is saying hello, and I say hello back. El Denise says hello, and I say hello back. El Denise, I really appreciate your work. Thank you. Thank you very much. I really, really appreciate that. JC's Radiant Ray, do some genres require more effort than others? Whoa, I've got to get going here. Opera versus pop. Well, the diehard opera teachers would probably say that opera is the ultimate expression of the human voice. I don't really want to debate that with them. I would say that the different genres require different skill sets and different ways of approaching the voice. But I don't think that they require any less effort or expertise to be good at them. I've listened to opera singers try and sing Beatles tunes, and it's not always good. There's a style that has to be learned there. Theron, I do the gentle tenor warm-up in the morning. I do the full range tenor warm-up about 10 minutes later. What follow-on practice video do you recommend at that point? Man, that's a good combination right there. I would mix it up. If that's working really well for you, then I would start mixing it up. I'd go over to the high range technique and check into some of that. I might go over to the lyrical playlist or lyric singing playlist or something like that. Like the new videos that I just released today, those are about incorporating lyrics into our vocalizations, and there's some technical stuff in there that could be really, really cool to check out. You might throw in an endurance warm-up in there to get you doing some long tones and just really getting that suspension to sustain for a while. But yeah, if that's working well for you, then I would maybe throw something in there just to mix it up. And because there's 400 some odd videos on the channel at this point. There's a lot lot to choose from. Eldon is, how can I sing through the vocal break? You got to start with descending patterns. There's at least two or three series on how to sing. There's a one for male vocalists, how to sing high notes, part 1, 2, and 3. That's a very comprehensive system to go through. I believe the other one is how to sing over the break, and that one goes through a similar sequence, but it's in 5 different ranges. I would check into those and see how that goes. At the end of the day, you're going to start with descending patterns and getting accustomed to cricothyroid dominant singing and changing into thyroarytenoid dominant singing. That's how we do it. Those videos will take you through the practices, the exercises. Midrigan, hello. Give me some tips for correct intonation. Okay, intonation, assuming that you are hearing things accurately, then intonation problems typically occur when there is an imbalance in vocal fold engagement or airflow. So, if your intonation's really, really off, someone told me that I should relabel the beginner lessons as foundation exercises, because that's really what they are. They're fundamentals, and fundamentals of the practice. There are a couple that deal with wide intervals, open fifths, we, with short notes, just like I sang there. Those are the ones to get started with, and then they'll go through the process of getting you narrower and narrower until you're singing scales. That balance of airflow and vocal fold engagement is critical to good intonation. Aside from that, we get into the vagaries of where you are singing. If you're in a really loud environment, the tendency is to push. That's going to make you go flat. It just kind of goes off from there. Brenda, does your range change when you have no tonsils or thyroid? Well, a friend of mine recently had a tonsillectomy, and his vocal range got a little bit beefier, but it didn't really change, though it can. I do not know about the thyroid. I'm sorry, I cannot advise you on that. But with the tonsils, it sometimes can make a slight adjustment. Though he didn't really change that much. He just got a little bit beefier. JC's Radiant Ray, I sang an aria for the first time in a long time and noted my A-flat muscles were shaking and working hard. Just wondering. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, in range, certainly. Different ranges require a lot different outputs of energy where you are in your range. Greg, I really like the lyric videos. Thank you. I've always had trouble with enunciation, and the exercises are helpful. Great. I'm going to do more of those. I felt really, really good about getting those out there, and I think that would be very, very good for the channel to have those out there. Peace, love, Aaron 100. This is your first time participating. Welcome. Welcome to the chat. This is your chat. So I'm moving along. I'm trying to go quickly here because I know I've got a lot of questions on my screen. Blue, third up. Can we have a closed Facebook group where we can upload our songs and give feedback to each other? Yes, why not? That's a cool idea. I don't actually know how the whole uploading thing works to Facebook, but we're gonna get a group together, and that's a cool idea. Totally. Yeah, I will make that happen. Peace, love, Aaron 100. What do you mean by this? Some notes that remain out of your range, the differences will become negligible. Yes, thank you for bringing that back up. I lost where that comment was in the whole comment section thing. What I meant by that was, because that was, I don't remember where that was, but I remember we were talking about high range singing. And what I meant by that was that as a mezzo, if you're working on your really, really high range stuff and you're getting to C6 per se, that might be a little bit easier for a soprano, but most genres don't take advantage of that tessitura. And so you're going to primarily be down in the C5 area. Now, you'll still benefit from working out your range to C6. And while it will still perhaps not be quite the same as a soprano would, your technique around C5 is going to be quite good. So the differences between you and a soprano singing around C5 are going to become negligible in most genres. And I realize whenever I generalize like that, I'm opening myself up because I'm fond of saying whenever we generalize, we are immediately wrong. There's always an exception to that. But that's what I meant by that. I hope that makes sense. Please let me know down low, and I'm going to try and get going here. I scroll poorly. Thank you very much, Sarah C. You're very, very welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. Dr. Cunning, streaming is a cool idea. Thanks, Jeff. You're very welcome. I always enjoy these chats. I have so much fun taking your questions and getting a chance to interact with everybody. Blue Third Up's looking forward to the guidebook. Awesome. I'm very, very excited. It's being proofread right now, so really cool. Blue Third Up at Joey, you are correct. Joey, I don't know where my secondo passagio is, but I don't really have a problem transitioning. I guess I don't feel resonance, not in my chest or head, just like it's coming out of my mouth. Okay. But what did you say earlier? I thought maybe I'm getting confused with somebody else. Because I thought, yeah. I'm losing track of the question there. Sorry, Joey. If it's too far in the front of your mouth, that may be somewhat of an issue. You definitely want to feel a little bit more resonance throughout the oral cavity, so not just at the teeth. Lola Lewis. Hi, Jeff. Hello to you, Lola. I sing soprano in a 4-part choir. Cool. I don't sight read, but your tutorials and advice have helped me improve my performance heaps. Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for chiming in this evening. Joey, sounds more like I'm speaking than singing. That can be more about connecting the vowels melodically. The new video will help you with that. I talk a lot about, what's that one? Go home now. That phrase. It's really challenging to focus on the vowels and keep the vowels going. Go home now. Go home now. If I don't focus on the vowels, go. In theory, I could miss that second pitch. Go home now. And get too much of the consonants and an imbalance, and we don't get that line. That's why we have to get our vowels in alignment so that when we're singing lyrical phrases, we focus on the vowels and we connect the dots that way. We connect from vowel to vowel to vowel through the consonants, and that gives us really, really well-connected melodies that are melodious. You can always break it apart. You can always be a bit more staccato, but getting that line, that's where the music is in the melody of our song. Carlos says thank you, and I say you're welcome. Thank you. Susanna, I am so glad I found your channel. You're of enormous help, and I like exercising with your videos daily. Thank you. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for watching. Susanna's talking to Bird Third Up, Blue Third Up, not Bird. Somehow I see Bird in that. Blue Third Up, or Bluebird. JC's Radiant Ray is talking to Capone. Helsinki to Tallinn. Michi. Hello to you. What do you know about dysphonia? I know I've talked with someone about it before, but I don't remember exactly. You'd have to refresh my memory, or I can look that up. You know what I'm going to do is I'll look that up and talk about it next week. So I will make a note of that, and I'll kick off next week's live event with the question on dysphonia. Dr. Koenig says, hey, I always thought that the weight of your voice affects your passagio, but since you have a really light voice and a normal passagio, I guess, is that how it's supposed to be? The weight, the amount of vocal fold engagement that you carry into the zona de passagio, specifically from the thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice, can make it more challenging to make the transition through and over the secondo passagio. And it can also make the matching of timbre more difficult if you can make them match at all. But that's not to say that you can't, sing with a higher thyroarytenoid dominant voice or a higher engagement of that. If you're not going to go into the zona de passagio, you're not go over the secondo passagio. Is it how it's supposed to be? Well, I think about it more as we have to balance our own instruments individually. So yeah, my voice is a little bit lighter. My thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice, my chest voice, is not terribly robust. And so because the thing that I enjoy most about my personal singing is to try to balance specifically those two registers, thyroarytenoid and cricothyroid. I want to have as seamless a transition as I possibly can. There's no reason why. I just like that. And so yeah, I think I'm getting off topic here. Is it how it's supposed to be? It's how it's supposed to be for me. It's right for me and for the way that I sing. But it may not be right for everyone. I think of it as a neutral phonation to the voice. So it's unaffected because I have balanced my thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice such that I can easily make the transition to cricothyroid dominant. But if you're singing something different or you're in an Aaron Neville cover band, you do not have the same kinds of requirements that I do. It's different. So, yeah, I hope that's not too kind of. I don't mean to dodge the question. That's not what I'm trying to do here. But I think we have to account for the differences in the intentions of the vocalist. Whatever your goals are, that will dictate largely how you are going to learn to operate your voice. And all the skills and all the videos and things like that on the YouTube channel are meant to help you do that. Brandon Shag, how do I sing with rasp? Japadogi, whom I haven't seen in a while. I think he actually changed his user ID to Michael. Has asked me about that, and I'm almost ready to do that. So look for that in the next. I don't want to put a date on it because I want to understand the process before I start trying to teach it, and it isn't something that I have practiced until recently. So I'm learning to sing with a little bit of rasp and distortion in order to teach it, and I have to say I have kind of enjoyed it. It's been kind of fun to learn how to do it, but I want to understand more about the musculature before I start talking about it. So I will get to that. Theron says, thank you, Maestro, for the guidance. You are very welcome. Thank you. JC's Radiant Ray. Oh, Capone is talking to JC's Radiant Ray. Aaron, I can't even get to C6. That's okay. That's totally fine. I mean, again, if you're a singer-songwriter, you don't need to sing anywhere near that. Now, if you want to get up there, then, start first with engagement lip trill stuff. Super lip trill. The old... and that will help tons. Rebret, greetings from New York City, and greetings to you. Thank you for mentioning intonation. I have been told that I need to work on it. Will you do some instructional videos to improve that aspect of singing? Yes, sure. I mean, in theory, all the videos are kind of about that too. And I think I did I did a quick tip on singing out of tune or how to sing in tune or something like that. You might have a quick look at that, and that may inform how you practice things. If it's really an issue, check out, and again, please don't be offended, but check out some of the beginner videos, primarily because they feature a lot of exercises that are short vowel syllable exercises. He, he. That will help you balance your airflow and vocal fold engagement, and that will help your intonation. Aaron says, thank you for answering my question. You are very welcome. Jacob, is it bad to drink cold things once in a while if you sing? The water I'm drinking right now isn't particularly room temperature, I have to admit. No, it's not. No, once in a while. I mean, anytime it's just an occasional thing. No, and it may not bother your voice at all if you drink cold things all the time. All of us are different, and so there's different things. For me, if I have spicy food before I sing, that's a big no-no for me, but for other people, it may not make any difference. Dairy or even black tea with milk in it is a big no-no for me if I'm singing, but I can have yogurt like while I'm singing and it does nothing. It's absolutely fine. I don't understand that one, quite frankly, but I don't question it because yogurt's lovely. So yeah, it really, see how it affects your voice, and if it is adversely affecting you, then change your habit. Michi says, okay, thank you. You're welcome. And Aaron says, by the way, most of the songs I sing, I tend to stay in my middle range and don't really go higher than maybe E flat 5 or E5. Yeah, so you're going to be fine. There's going to be very negligible difference between the way you might sing, except for that E flat E5. If you're a mezzo, is right on your secondo passagio. So there, a soprano would have a bit of an advantage on you because their secondo passagio is going to be a little bit higher, and they're not going to have to deal with that transition the same way that you are. If that's your case, then really work your transition technique from work that area from C5 to G5. That's where you want to focus. And then consider changing the keys of the songs that you're singing so that they're not in the zona de passagio for you, unless it's that kind of a song. If it's, if it's got a lot of energy to it and it's appropriate to be of greater volume and things like that, that's fine. If it's not, then, then move the key. JC's Radio Ray is talking to Capone. Brandon is saying, yay. Awesome. Javier, Jeff, thank you so much for your videos and the education you provide. I have a problem with my throat hurting. I know it's a basic issue. What do you recommend? It shouldn't hurt. Address your airflow and address the balance of vocal fold engagement to airflow. Focus on you want to use as little vocal fold engagement as you can while still having a well-adducted sound. So what I mean by that is he. That's well adducted. If it's not adducted well, he, it's airy. If you're squeezing, he, that's far too much vocal fold engagement. It's going to be a little bit, you're going to have to experiment a little bit with it, but it should not hurt. It really shouldn't hurt. I need to wrap this up. So, speed round here, just to take what I've got on screen really quickly. And that ends at Rubrette. I have not. I've heard Linkin Park. Haven't really listened to them, Joey. JC's Radiant Ray is saying, thank you for another great session. Goodbye. Thank you, JC's Radiant Ray. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week, hopefully. Joey, he has some of the most healthy sounding distortion I've ever heard. One of your favorite singers. I will have a listen. Rubrette, great. I'm not terrible, but I think when I get overly excited, I lose. Certainly. We do, yeah. And if it's loud, that can really make us push, and it can send our intonation really off the track. We really have to be conscientious about that. IMOXWU. Why do you hate the sound of your own voice? You may not be used to it, or it may not be resonating properly. And you may just, you may have to get used to the sound of your recorded voice. It's part of the reason why I record all my lessons, just to get used to it. Excellent. Aaron, you're singing country. It's lovely. And you don't have to change the key. Fantastic. And Rebret, this is the last question. I've been told that I have a good voice, but there is always room for improvement. I love learning. That is an awesome place to end because I agree with you. We are all on the same path. We're just in different places. So we're all trying to get better, and I love that sentiment. I love learning too, and that's part of the reason why I love these live events, because it keeps me sharp and it keeps me thinking about my voice and your voice and trying to help you guys get better and better and better. So once again, awesome session, everyone. Thank you so much for participating. I will see you next week. And between now and then, take really good care of your voices, enjoy singing, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.